Yo, peace was good. Welcome to the store my CD collection. This is part 15. It is 7:46 a.m. Woke up mad early on my day off. I had old days, but apologize for not bringing you guys this video sooner. It's I just been busy with just sidetracked with a lot of shit, work and doing other videos and car problems. You know what I mean? But you guys know how that shit goes. But anyways, without further ado, start with the first album of the day is DMX's fourth album, The Great Depression, released in 2001. I'm not gonna lie, when this album first came out, I didn't really like it. I don't know, I guess because I was expecting DMX from like his first two albums, you know what I mean? This album's a little bit more cleaner. It's still dark, but it's a little bit more, it's not like the first two, and that was my disappointment with this album. But this album, like, it grew on me, but it definitely has some bangers. I highly recommend checking this album out. My opinion, this was like the last good DMX album, in my opinion, because when he started putting out Grand Champ and Year of the Dog and all that shit, that's, to me, is when he fell off, in my opinion. But this is Great Depression, released in 2001. Pick it up. Then we got Erick Sermon's first solo album, debut album, No Pressure, released in 1993. This was like right after EPMD broke up back in '92. You guys know the story with that. Paris Smith's house got home invaded, got robbed and shit like that. People think Erick Sermon, they felt like Erick Sermon was responsible, That pretty much broke up the group, and there was a lot of tension throughout the group and shit like that, so they broke up temporarily. But anyways, this is like right after, fresh off the the breakup. Very dope album. Highly recommended if you like early '90s hip hop, or you like Erick Sermon, you like his beats or his rhyming, shit like that. Highly recommend. I fucking love this album. It's sad because this album was actually out of print. It was just fucking sad because Erick Sermon is a fucking veteran, and he's put in work in the '90s. You know what I mean? To have his album out of print, I think is very disrespectful in my opinion. But yeah, pick this shit up. Highly recommended. Then we got Insane Clown Posse's second album, Ringmaster, released in 1994, or the second Joker card. When I was in a big horrorcore phase that I had going on back in high school, back in like 03, like 2002, 03. Listen to this shit now is kind of like I don't know, man. It was like a guilty pleasure, I should say. Definitely not the best, but not the worst either. But if you like hardcore hip hop, if you like rap, rock, that type of shit, then you'll definitely enjoy this. Insane Clown Posse, Ringmaster, released in 1994. Then we got Nas Elmatic, Stillmatic, excuse me. This is his fifth album, released in 2001. Classic album. This album was released, around the time, when him and Jay-Z were having beef and shit like that. Definitely a dope album. A lot of people like to compare this album to Illmatic, which you can't do because it's totally different albums, different eras. But yeah, this is a very dope album. Known for songs like One Mic, Got Yourself a Gun, shit like that. Yeah, man, what can you say about this album? In my opinion, definitely not one of Nas's best albums, but it's definitely a dope album just on the strength of the time it came out, you know what I mean? Just like I said, the beef between him and Nas and Jay-Z, he killed Jay-Z with Ether. Although Ether, in my opinion, the beat was kind of whack, in my opinion. I know it was a Ron Browse beat, but I felt like it could have been a little bit better. Lost Professor, I was watching an interview a week ago. He was saying that he made a beat for Ether for Nas, but I guess Nas wasn't feeling it or whatever. It was like too hard. I don't know, some shit like that. I forgot what he said, but yeah, I highly recommend it if you're a fan of Nas. very dope. To me, the last decent Nas album, and Godson. You know what I mean? But after that, Nas has been hit or miss for me, in my opinion, with releasing albums and shit like that. Although Life is Good is dope, I don't care what nobody says. Then we got excuse me, got Wu-Tang's third album, The W, released in 2000, known for songs like Gravel Pit, Protect Your Neck, The Jump Off, I guess the sequel to Protect Your Neck, I Can't Sleep, featuring Isaac, the great late Isaac Hayes, rest in peace. My opinion, very underrated, very slept on album from Wu-Tang. You know, this song came out in 2000. You know, around this time, Wu-Tang was kind of like losing their popularity, and you know, because you know a lot of people was kind of like going for, because you know you gotta understand, 2000, around this time, you know, Cash Money Clique was on their A game. You know, there was like the whole Cash Money Clique, excuse me, not clique, invasion was going on. Like, it was the beginning of the Southern invasion. You know, you got cats like Ja Rule, the whole Rough Rider camp, taking the industry by storm. You know, the whole Rockefeller movement going on. So Wu-Tang has kind of got lost in the dust in a sense. But yeah, this is a very good album, man. Very it's kind of dark in a sense. Not in a grimy dark, but like a dark hip hop form. You know what I mean? But yeah, very dope album, man. I highly recommend this album. To me, the last good Wu-Tang album, in my opinion. After that, everything was kind of mediocre, in my opinion. Then we got Mobb Deep's Juvenile Hell, released in 1993. If you're expecting, you know, the infamous, or you're expecting Hell on Earth or Murda music, you'll be definitely disappointed with this album. This album is actually very different from their later albums. This album doesn't really get a lot of praise. A lot of people hate on it. You know, even Mobb Deep themselves, you know, they don't even consider this their first album. They consider this as more like a demo. That's what Prodigy said himself. But I actually like this album. It's very slept on. For fans of Mobb Deep, you should definitely own this or check this album out. You owe yourself that. Known for songs like Peer Pressure. Love that song. In fact, that song right there playing in the background is Stomp Em Out by Mobb Deep off this album. Stomp Em Out. I believe that song was actually Big Noise' first appearance on Wax, so I just throw that out there. It's ironic that that song is playing during this overview. But yeah, very dope. If you can hear it in the background, might be a little faint, but it's definitely early 90s hip hop, so you know, it's not their known signature sound, but I say give it a chance. If you're a fan of Mobb Deep, then you'll definitely enjoy this album. But like I said, if you're expecting like Infamous or Hell on Earth, you'll definitely be disappointed, because this definitely sounds like from the early 90s. It's definitely dated, but not in a bad way. You know, some people might take that into consideration, but I like this album, man. Definitely not the best album, but not the worst. I like it a lot better than Blood Money, I'll tell you that, to say the least. But yeah, definitely check this album out. Then we got Mobb Deep's The Infamous album. This was released in 1995. A lot of people say this is their best album. I have to disagree with that. I mean, yeah, this is my second favorite album from Mobb Deep. This is an album that actually put them out there like that, you know, that actually made them who they are today, you know what I mean? But, you know, I feel like this album is overhyped, but in a good way, for a good reason. And rightfully so, because this album, the way it sounded, nobody was making beats like Havoc back in the day, man. I mean, and the storytelling at the time, I mean, it was definitely timeless shit, you know, shit like, you know, it's music that, you know, was definitely ahead of its time. It's definitely groundbreaking at the time. Yes, the subject matter is nothing new, but the way these cats were saying it at that time was unheard of, you know what I mean? and it was kind of conversation. It was some shit that, you know, if you lived in the hood and you had cats talking about shit that they've done, you know, you can hear this on this album. You know what I mean? That's what I get from this album. Highly recommended. Very dark, very gritty, street gritty. Known for songs like Survival of the Fittest, Shook Ones, whole bunch of shit. By the way, there's demos of like songs that they made from the Infamous album, but it's you know, but it was scrapped. The songs, I guess it was supposed to be on this album, but you know, didn't make it to the album. I guess because it was too dark, or they wasn't feeling it, some shit like that. You know, songs like Bridge 94, Lifestyles of the Rich and Infamous. No, Lifestyles of the Infamous, excuse me. If It's Alright, you know, songs like that. Check those songs out. Highly recommended. If you like mid-90s hip-hop, street New York hip-hop, this is the album to pick up. Then we got Mobb Deep's third album, Hell on Earth. In my opinion, their best album, in my opinion. I don't care what nobody says. Don't believe me. You know, when this album came out, a lot of MCs from like France, you know, Europe and shit like that, especially France, a lot of them try to make Havoc style beats just on the strength of this album. You could tell by like the drums that they use, like they were sampled off Havoc, like the Havoc snare and shit like that, like the piccolo snare and shit like that. They would sample that, and you know, try to make beats kind of like from this album. And in my opinion, this album was, in my opinion, is where they found their sound, the traditional Mobb Deep sound, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I could go on and on about this album. Fucking love this album. You know, was dropped around the time of Mobb Deep and Tupac's beef, around the, you know, the East Coast West Coast beef and stuff like that. The song Dropping Gem on them, you know, they dissing Tupac. They pretty much killed Tupac in that shit. Yeah, a lot of people say hit him up, you know, but if you listen to Dropping Gem on them, I mean, they fucking killed Tupac. No disrespect to Tupac, but very dark. They definitely stepped their game up on the lyrics. You know, Prodigy was on his A game on this album, as far as the lyrics. You know what I mean? Havoc, same thing with the lyrics, the beats. I kind of wish Havoc go back to these style of beats, but that's never gonna happen. Specifically because of the production tools that they use. Like, you know, I think he doesn't use he was using the N-Sonic EPS 16 Plus around this album, and you know the EPS, you know, gives that gritty sound. He's not using that no more. He's using like the Machine and stuff like that. His production now is a lot more cleaner than his older stuff, and I kind of want him to go back to that style, but you know, that's never gonna happen. But highly recommended, very underrated in my opinion. A lot of people kind of shit on this album. A lot of people like to compare this and Infamous. In my opinion, I think this was the better album than Infamous. Like I said, they stepped their game up. The storytelling of this album sounds like more Trife Life, where Havoc talks about he's visiting this chick. You know, he's trying to see this chick and stuff like that. This chick set him up. And the moral of the story is like, you know, don't try to get at some random chick, because you never know, because you know they'll just try to set you up and shit like that. Highly recommend it. Pick it up. Then we got Mobb Deep's fourth album, Murda Music. This was released in 1999, 3 years after Hell on Earth. Very dope album, very slept on. This album was actually their highest selling album to date. Interesting story about this album. Just like with Nas's I Am, this album suffered a lot of bootlegging. This album was actually supposed to be released back in 1998, but the songs were leaked out and they were like featured on like, you know, mixtapes and stuff like that. So what they did was they re-recorded this album, you know, recorded new songs and stuff like that, and you have this album. You know what I mean? If you, like I said before in previous reviews, if you go on J Love's if you go on J Love's website, jloveonline.com or .net, if you check like their Mobb Deep's first two Mobb Misses albums, or the first three, specifically the first two, there were songs on this album that were recorded for the Murda music that were left off because they were leaked on. You can actually hear it on those first two mixtapes, and you'll get like, you know, rough mixes of Murda music. You know what I mean? Highly recommend it. Check this album out. To me, one of the last decent Mobb Deep albums that actually had like the Mobb Deep signature sound. Then you got Prodigy's classic debut album, H.N.I.C, released in 2000. Classic album, yo. This album, I mean, whew, man, this album right here, when it came out in 2000, definitely one of the best songs to come out back in 2000. Definitely one of the best. Known for songs like Keep It Thorough, YBE, Young Black Entrepreneurs, featuring BG. BG, Hold Your Head Up. Yeah, very dope album. Definitely his best solo album. Besides Return of the Mac, which was another dope album. Yeah, if you like Mobb Deep, definitely pick this album up. If you like Mobb Deep's Murda music, you'll definitely enjoy this album. Highly recommend it. Pick it up. See how much time I got left. We still got time. Then we got Mobb Deep's fifth album, Infamy, released in 2001. In my opinion, the last decent Mobb Deep album, in my opinion. A lot of people kind of give shit to this album. Reason being is because of, I guess, of the song, what's that song with 112? Give me 1 second. Hey Love. You know, a lot of people shitted on Prodigy on Mobb Deep on that song, but I thought that was a dope song. I mean, yeah, it's definitely not, you know, the typical Mobb Deep song, but it was still ill. I mean, it showed, you know, Mobb Deep that he was had variety. You know, it wasn't this typical shit that the street shit that they talked about. Yeah, man, very dope album. You know, this is around the time, you know, the whole QB and Marcy Projects beef, you know, Nas and Jay-Z beef. Mobb Deep fell victim to that beef. You know, Jay-Z pretty much shitted on them on the Takeover. And then the song Crawlin' was actually a Jay-Z diss. You know, they dissed Jay-Z and stuff like that. Very dope album, known for songs like Crawlin', Hey Love, Getaway, Burn, songs like that. Very solid album. Like I said, not the best, but it's not their worst. You could tell with this album, they were kind of straying away from the dark sound and shit. I mean, not straining, but it wasn't as dark as their first 4 albums, in my opinion. But definitely check it out. It's not as bad as people think it is. Very dope album. Kind of underrated, if you ask me. They got Redman's second album, Dare Iz A Darkside, released in 1994. Very dope album. Very experimental for Redman. A lot of the beats, Redman was actually doing most of the beats. Erick Surman did some of the beats, but very weighted out. This album right here, you know, you see Redman in his most deranged form, in my opinion. Around this time, he was doing a lot of acid, a lot of hard drugs and shit like that. You know, 'cause I remember he said in the interview saying like, you know, around this time he was doing a lot of drugs, a lot of acid and shit like that. He did a lot of drugs. He was fucked up making this album, but definitely shows Redman his most experimental form, and I fucking love this. I think this is a fun album. Definitely his darkest album. A lot of people complain about the production about this album, but to me, I think the production is what really made this album special. You know what I mean? Because I guess people excuse me, they were expecting more Erick Surman beats, even though he did some of the beats, but Redman does a lot of the beats. And I guess people weren't used to that, you know what I mean? People wanted Erick Surman, you know what I mean? But definitely check this album out. Known for songs like Rockefeller, was a dope video where he filmed at Coney Island. Can't Wait. Fucking love that song. That song is what really got me through it. What really inspired me to get this album. Even though I was gonna get it anyways, just me being in the strength of being a Redman album. Fucking love this album. Very slept on, very underrated. Although this album definitely has like a cult following, especially nowadays. Few of my friends on Facebook actually love this album. They prefer this album over Muddy Waters and stuff like that. Me personally, I don't know, man. There's certain days I like this album, and there's certain days I like Muddy Waters, but this is definitely a dope album. Highly recommended, man. If you like Redman, definitely check this album out. Highly recommended. Then we got the Beatnuts Street Level, or the self-titled album, released in 1984. This is their second album. Or if you want to be specific or technical, this would be their first debut full-length album, released in 1984. Beatnuts in their prime. The beats were ill, jazzy. This is the Beatnuts I like, you know what I mean? Very dope album. Definitely has that mid-90s East Coast hip-hop, that signature sound. Known for songs like Props Over Here, Psycho Dorf, Hit Me With That, which was a single as well. Fucking love this album, man. I mean, the beats on here are fucking dope. This is when Fashion, aka Al Tariq, was in the group and stuff like that. Very dope album. I highly recommend it, man. Definitely one of the best albums to come out in '94. Let me see how much time I got left. Alright, I'm gonna put a stop right there. That was part 15. Stay tuned for part 16. Peace.